If you've ever studied psychology, you've heard about the rubber hand experiment. Developed in the late 1990s, it's used as a way to visualize how suggestible our minds truly are. By hiding one hand of the participant and brushing both the rubber hand and the participant's hand at the same time, the mind is tricked into thinking that the fake hand is their own. The results of this experiment suggest that our minds and our bodies are not completely connected, and there is a degree of independence on both sides. The way that those two parts interact is a theory called the mind body problem. This idea can be attributed to French philosopher and absolute stud, Rene Descartes, who's originated this idea in the 17th century. Descartes is the face of the idea of dualism, the theory that there are two parts of our being, the mind and the body, and that they interact with each other. Now, while Descartes makes arguments that are based in fairly sound logic, modern science has proven this discussion to be more complex and have many more variables to consider. We have access to imaging, testing, and laboratory science here in the 21st century that prove that our minds and bodies are connected, proving this idea of monoism, the idea that our mind and our body exist from one substance. So, what we have is a bit of a chicken or the egg situation. Are we minds with a body or bodies with a mind that stops by now and again? Which is more dominant in humans? And if the mind is more of a soul, non physical entity, then how can it move and interact with a physical thing? So let's touch back on this idea of dualism. Descartes' methodology for this idea is founded in the fundamental truth that matter takes up space and can be measured using linear dimensions such as inches, feet, or centimeters. Unfortunately, our consciousness is not measured that way. Because our mind and body occupy space differently, his theory is that there is no immediate connection between the two, and that consciousness must enter the body in order for them to interact. Two philosophers, Princess Elizabeth of Bohemia and Pierre Gassendi, took issue with this logic. Voicing a stronger opinion on his hole in Descartes' argument was Princess Elizabeth. She specifically challenged the dualistic perspective by writing to Descartes, stating that he defines mind and matter in such a way that the two are mutually exclusive. Since the mind lacks a location or spatial dimension, she argues that it's impossible for it to make contact with matter. So let's refer to a hypothetical for a moment. The mind and the body are, in fact, two separate entities. Why would one feel the need to alter their physicality if their consciousness existed beyond linear dimension? This raises the question of LGBTQ identity, sexuality, gender fluidity, or just the idea of insecurity. Why is there importance, value, or emotion placed on the idea of our appearance of our physical body if our minds or souls do not exist there? We are in a constant struggle to correctly portray ourselves on the outside the way that we feel on the inside, and we are increasingly seeing this in our more modern generations with the incorporation of social media. It can be argued that if we are simply physical beings, we would not feel such an intense desire to need to change them in the first place. In a 2006 journal article published by the University of Hertfordshire, Portuguese American neurologist Antonio Damasio stated that the mind had to be first about the body, or it could not have been. This is a clear demonstration of the monistic theory in full support. What we have found is that our bodies and minds are more profoundly interconnected than we can even currently understand. Using neurotransmitters such as this, our neurons send out electric signals from our brains out through our nerves and to our muscles and perform various actions such as movement, the release of hormones, and maintaining homeostasis within the body. That is coming from our mind. It is also hard to dispute the positive effects that taking care of our bodies have on our minds and vice versa. Examples like exercise, eating well, getting enough sleep, or simply doing things that we love all have direct correlations on our state of mind. This would not happen if the two were not connected in some way. In fact, many physical conditions such as IBS, ME, fibromyalgia, chronic pain, asthma, or eczema have been densely correlated with mental discomfort in one's body. In many instances, mindfulness tactics are reconnected to one's body, and mind are used in conjunction with modern medicine in the treatment of these conditions. So this begs the question, what do we even consider the mind to be? Is it simply our inner dialogue? Is it our entire consciousness, as Descartes wrote? Is it sharing qualities with the body since it inhabits our brain, which shares in linear dimension? Do we even have a soul? And can we choose to come and go into our beings as it pleases? All of this must be considered when we theorize how our minds and bodies are connected. So I encourage you to find a friend, family member, stranger on the street, and try your version of the rubber hand test for yourself. Your mind is a powerful thing, and you'll believe it when you feel it.